BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello there, David Howells here. I thought I'd better set the record straight about when Crouchy lost my football boots when he was an apprentice at Tottenham. First of all, though, I must warn you that the following podcast will contain some strong language and most certainly adult themes. And also, more than likely, is that someone will be lying about stealing football boots.
Don't know if I'm supposed to say that. We've just broken down the technicalities of picking balls out of a bowl.
I'll give you the option now, Crouchy, that you could live to 100. Would you go for it?
Make my way downtown, just doors and homebound.
Vanessa Carlton!
Bex has sent you a message. Ed Sheeran's written you a song, but Mr. Islam said happy birthday. That's the real win.
Vanuatu, 166th in the world.
God, who do I go with this?
You're going to have to say something quickly.
Right, hello and welcome back to That Peter Crouch podcast with me, Peter Crouch, Tom Fordyce and Chris Stark here with me as usual. You all right, boys?
Yeah, good. I mean, Chris, I enjoyed, I know it's very different to MC Neat, but I enjoyed David Howells there.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Because I like that we can be talking about someone and then they come get involved in the podcast like a week or two later. It's good. And this has been a big mystery, hasn't it?
That was quite scary hearing that voice again, because probably the last time I heard it, he was bollocking me for losing his boots. I think he's moved on. I'd like to think he's moved on. And we still haven't really got to the bottom of it, have we?
No, we haven't. And we should say, if you're just listening to this podcast for the first time, this is a mystery that's been ongoing.
Crouchy, you were in charge of David Howells' boots, weren't you, and David Ginolas's boots? And David Howells was basically slipping and sliding his way around the first team pitch because he was forced to play in trainers on account of his prized boots going missing.
We think someone might have actually done you a wrong in there.
Someone out there knows what happened because I didn't steal them, but they never turned up.
Do you wish, Crouchy, that someone would lose your massive white headphones for you?
I do, yeah. For some reason, they're the only ones that seem to work. I was looking at myself before and I realised what I look like. I look like Wembley.
You do, you've got Wembley arch, haven't you?
You do. Yes. You look like Wembley.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's like Wembley on Cup final day.
Sort of feels like this is your thing. This is what you are now. These are your R9s, aren't they? This is what Crouchy will be known as. In fact, you could maybe like release these. You know what I mean? Like some bespoke Crouchy headphones. Pete's one.
Pete's,
yeah, a pair of Pete's. You could do a collab with Andre Mariner and do Pete's by Dre.
That is superb.
It'd be great.
This has got to happen.
There's an irony that they do make it look like Wembley, and Pete's by Dre sound like something that would have been sold at Wembley Market.
The rip-off ones.
Wouldn't it be great if kids like want these for Christmas as well?
I'd love it.
Would they have the full functioning mouthpiece you've got there, Crouchy? Are we talking everything that you've got in your current setup?
This mouthpiece just gets in the way. I try and.
Oh, it's turned everything off.
It's gone quiet.
Has it turned everything off?
Yeah.
Bloody headphones! I told you that.
Now it's turned
it's
back
back
on.
now.
If you are,
What does it do? What did that do? Did it turn them off? Really?
Yeah. Let's try and get one of the dragons on to do the swear warning, and also whilst they're there, we'll just get them for the money and the investment. Any of them will do, won't they?
I mean, I've got my favourites, but
who is your favourite?
Well, I've always wanted to work with Deborah Meaden.
Yeah, she's the best one.
Yeah.
She's the best one. Totally agree.
Well, you know, she was on Strictly when Ab was on it as well, and she was lovely. I met her husband as well because I used to go and sit in the bar. It's a long evening recording basically, and I remember Deborah Meaden's fella was in there a few times, and he was a nice fella. I became a wag all of a sudden.
Well, there's an episode in this, like you know, you seeing the other side, perhaps. Interesting that.
There were some other options for you there, Crouchy. This was the series with Vanessa Feltz on. I don't know if you got on well.
Oh, he was great. Fats and small.
Yeah.
What do you mean he's fat and small?
Got to turn around.
Hey, what's wrong with you?
Looking kind of down to me. That tune, yeah. Really nice fella.
Boys, as head of advertising, you know, I've been working on this billboard thing, this billboard deal. I've got as one billboard. And Crouchy, I left it with you. You said that you were going to present your artwork to us on this podcast. So I'm really excited about this because Billboard's ready to go. It's just what we're going to put on it.
I'm very excited by this. I'm going to bang it in the group now. Let me know your thoughts.
Okay.
Is this what you've just sent us? Is this it?
This is
Is
it.
this
Yeah, this is my best. This is my best work.
There's so much going on there.
Oh
It's
my
like-
God.
This is so many levels. Chris, let's try and describe some aspects of that. We've
Well,
got-
hang on, because what I'm thinking with this is, in some ways, I'd quite like people to see it for the first time on the billboard. Wait, should we each have a question? Maybe
for
that.
sure.
One question, otherwise we've been all night.
Right, you've labelled Tom on one of them, but you haven't labelled either of us. Is it? Why have you needed?
It's quite obvious. It's quite obvious that which one is Crouchy, and also there's something on something you're wearing, Chris.
Oh, I've just spotted
That's all I'm going to
that,
say.
yeah.
I don't want to get too much into it because I'd
No,
like people to discover it themselves. But what I'd like to say is I feel like there's so many layers in my art. You know, you have to look. It's like Where's Wally to some degree. You know, the more you look at it, the more you see. It's something that wouldn't look out of place in the 16th.
One more question I've got, Crouchy, and I think, Chris, we both agree this will look superb on your billboard on Bond Street. Is that Mr. Islam I can see?
It certainly is, Tom, and I thank you for noticing it. I just feel proud that my artistic talent's finally being recognised.
It's mainly black and white, but you've chosen to just colour in a couple of things in blue. Just talk me through your artistic process there.
And that's how ads work. You know, my dad, you've met my dad, he's big in the advertising game. You know, he's been in advertising a long time. And so I know what I'm doing, really.
That sums it all up there.
Sums it all up, yeah. I'm really, really proud of it. I don't want to say too much.
Well, listen, boys, that is great news about the billboard. I've also got a very slight update. Obviously, we are supposed to be having a race between us. Crouchy, you're meant to be getting a picture with the original Ronaldo, Chris, a picture with Elton John, and me with Supreme Leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. Now, I'd stumbled on a lead, and we've had an email which just confirms that. It's a message from Daniel. And Daniel says, are you aware that the North Korean embassy is in Ealing?
I can't believe I didn't even think of it. I've said to you that Kim Jong was ridiculous that you could get a photo or a swear warning from Kim Jong-un, but I remembered that the North Korean embassy is in Ealing. I know the exact. It's just like it's a house.
Yeah. I thought I had the hardest ask here, Chris, but I'm just wondering if fate is beginning to lean my way.
Well, it certainly seems so, and also if we do or can convince Vanessa Carlton to, I've had this vision, boys, of like, you know, 1,000 Miles. We've been getting into it on the pod, like, you know, the video is a piano moving through an area. Like, I've got a vision of piano on the back of a truck or something moving through Ealing, and now it's just another thing in the background, isn't it?
Perhaps Chris playing the his little piano on the back of a lorry going past the North Korean embassy, the Samrat, you know, the local pub, perhaps
Your
Mum and
house.
Dad's house.
Yeah.
It's exactly what we should be doing. And I'm just wondering, Crouchy, with your many local collections in Ealing, perhaps if I were to pen a letter to Kim Jong-un, to the Supreme Leader, maybe email it over. I don't know if like Herman could drop it round, or
Not a problem.
like your dad or someone.
Not a problem. I'll get Herman to drop it. There's a few still in the area.
Yeah.
There's one other thing I've noticed as well, Chris, because I've been doing a little bit of reading about North Korea because I need to make this happen. I'm going to have to be very careful when I say that I'd like this photo by. So I don't know if you know this, but North Korea uses different years.
Wow.
What, seriously though, like what is it actually like to live in North Korea?
Well, we're
at the
going to
moment?
send Tom, aren't we? That's the thing. We're going to send Tom there.
How many people live in North Korea?
Is there a podcast in North Korea that we could do some sort of exchange?
It's
So
a
for
good
1
shout,
week,
Chris. Yeah.
Well, maybe we just exchange you.
I'm less keen on this. I think if I'm going to North Korea,
So you go to North Korea and go on the North Korean Peter Crouch pod, whatever that is, and we'll have you know your equivalent here. How are you getting on with getting Ronaldo, Crouchy? Any news on that, or roll that over for another week?
No, I have. I've put feelers out, and I've had a few people saying he's gone off the radar a bit. I don't know if it's carnival time, is it in Rio? But he's being uncontactable at the moment.
Boys, we'll keep everyone updated with how you get on with Ronaldo, Crouchy, and you with Kim Jong and me with Elton John. We'll just roll that over for another week. But should we get into it then? Talking about stats. Should we crack on?
Let's do it.
Crouchy's done the robot again because it's 100 Premier League goals for Peter Crouch.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Crouchy, we're going to come to your own stats in a little bit later. I'm sure we're going to talk about XG as well. But should we start with those people whose job is entirely based around interpreting data at football clubs?
You know, some people's roles have got bigger and some people's roles have got smaller. You know, an analyst just wasn't, you know, someone who was across sort of all the stats and pro zone statistics and analysing other teams. That, you know, that role just wasn't in place when I first started. And now they're probably the most important people at a football club. Probably have more time with the manager than anyone, probably more than the assistant now. And none more so than Michael Edwards, who runs Liverpool now. He was our analyst at Portsmouth and at Tottenham. So Harry had him twice. Yeah, he was just sort of in a broom cupboard, really, doing the analysis on the computer. And he was a great lad. So we always used to go in and talk to him and get things off him. And he was.
You try and
good
bribe
fun.
him, Crouchy, because I guess his stats are important then, right?
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, of course. I mean, you know, he's all training ground stats will go to the manager, and I'm talking like how far you've run, how many touches you've had of a ball, how many incisive passes you've had, how many headers you've won, how many tackles you've lost. All the stats are so like gathered. And towards the end of my career, we were given our own iPads, so you had every single stat on it. You had every single moment you had in the game, and we'd be on a exercise bike, sort of warming down after a game, watching our own individual clips and looking at our own individual stats. That's how far it's gone. I mean, it's literally mind-boggling now.
That's so
and
weird.
With regards to obviously, like I said about Michael Edwards going from being an analyst now, because it's so important and their roles are so important. You know, he's been elevated to someone who's now basically running, you know, one of the most successful clubs in the world.
You know, Chris, Liverpool have got this incredible record in the transfer business, and certainly the time that he's been in charge of it, where they've, in your head, you're just thinking about the outlay they've had on Van Dijk and Alisson and Salah and players like that. But they've made something like 250 million quid profit, haven't they? And a lot of that, Crouchy, would come down to his work, his scouting work, but not old-fashioned scouting. This isn't like sending an old boy off to watch a match. This is like hardcore data-driven stuff, isn't it?
We all want to sit here and be romantic about our beautiful game, but the way it's gone now has been so stat orientated. And I think,
do you believe in that, Crouchy?
Well, I think there still is a place for watching a match with the naked eye. Someone like Luka Modric, for instance, right? I don't think, you know, his stats are obviously incredible because he's won the Ballon d'Or, but, you know, he's never going to score as many goals as Messi or Ronaldo, or he's never going to make as many tackles as N'Golo Kante or Makelele. Pirlo, someone who dictates the game. Paul Scholes, like later on in his career, would sit back and maybe, he's not getting as many assists or goals as he used to, but he used to sit there and just dictate a football match. So I think there's a case for the naked eye or a footballing eye watching a football match and going, that is a special player.
Do you think you would have had the success that you've had in something that was purely decided on stats from when you were breaking through?
The modern player, for instance, now I've spoke to Jack Grealish. The way he talks is like, I need to get my numbers up. I need to be scoring goals. I need to be assisting to get noticed. You know, if you want to get in the England squad, if you look at Grealish's competition of Mason Mount, Phil Foden, James Maddison, how are you going to stand out from the rest of those players? I heard James Maddison talking about it actually recently, and he's saying he sat with the analyst and said, how can I improve my numbers? What do I need to be doing? The way the young players are today, they're so conscious of their stats and what they are doing. The biggest stat in the world certainly when I was coming through was scoring goals. So if you're a striker, look, there's no bigger way of getting noticed than scoring goals. But that was self-explanatory. But now there's so much more to the analysis than looking who scored on the score sheet. It's about passes completed. It's about incisive passes. It's about
expected
passes
goals
that break the
and all
lines.
that, right?
Expected goals.
It's the fantasy football stats.
A fullback now is expected to get a certain amount of crosses in, make a certain amount of interceptions. It's gone so stat based now. And would I like to be playing in today's game? I don't know why I've thrown this question at myself because I don't know how to answer it.
You can't answer it, you're in trouble.
I've just put myself under immense pressure for no
Crouchy,
reason.
we should do this more often. You ask yourself the most difficult question that you...
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I've just asked myself a question that I'm going to find really tough to answer. Would I like to be playing in today's game? No. 2000, I think I made my debut. I played in the Championship then, so to come through sort of the Championship and then be in the Premier League era, I wouldn't change it for the world. And I think I got towards the end, I got lots of the benefits of the Premier League, loads of the more professional setup, the backroom team, and it was a global game, but without a lot of the pitfalls of the modern game, which if I was a player, I'd find hard. I think the rules have got difficult to understand. I think the VAR coming in has darkened the mood around football a little bit. Would I like to be playing that environment? No, God no. To score a goal and wait for the decision.
Did you see this as well? Did you see? It was a couple of weeks ago now. I saw Lingard scored. VAR went to it, then said it was fine, and then he celebrated and went hard. It was almost, I don't know if he listens. Maybe he's listening.
Well, which tune he used, Chris, on one of his little cheeky social media posts.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He did the done, and then he did Vanessa Carlton on the way home.
Yeah, he's listening.
Well, not literally. He listened to Vanessa Carlton on the way home.
It's a hell of a coincidence, if so. But if he is listening, we should 100% get him on.
Chris, I just think there's if we can argue with Crouchy, arguing with himself, I think stats would help you, Crouchy, because then there would be proof. And managers or fans would be able to see what you could do on a pitch and get past this stereotype of he's just a tall bloke.
So what would those stats be? Like, are we talking... the only one that comes to my head is like XP. Do you know what those stats would be, Crouchy? That's...
XG, expected goals.
Sorry.
Oh, XP.
XG.
I thought that was like... I thought I just need to upgrade my Windows or something.
You do need XP, actually.
That's what it is. XP. That was Windows. To me, it still seems kind of like bollocks. The idea of an expected goal being a metric for judging how good a player is.
I'm going to have to say, Chris, that even the phrase XG is pretentious to me. It makes me feel physically sick. Because... it should be EG. Do you know what I mean? Like it's XGing itself off. Don't X yourself.
Good point.
And XG. I'm an XG. I mean, it just sums up the sort of where we're going wrong, really, doesn't it? Like expected goals. What a load of absolute fucking nonsense.
I've just done a quick Google. I just typed, what is XG? XG is a measure of chance quality. And it says Opta have analysed 300,000 shots to work out the likelihood of a goal being scored from a particular position on the pitch. I mean, would XG be good for you?
Do you know what this is? This is midfielders kicking off. When they've got an incompetent striker, who can't score goals, and they're laying it on a plate for them every week. Say if Kevin De Bruyne had, I don't know, someone horrendous up front, and he kept laying it on a plate for him, and his assists would be right down, wouldn't they? So when he's laying it on a plate, and this expected goal stat has definitely come from a midfielder because it's basically missing sitters, isn't it? If you miss, the expected goals conversion rate for a striker, if it's down, it means you're missing chances. So it's come from a midfielder who hasn't been getting his enough assist stats.
Crouchy, I've got the XG for your final season at Stoke.
Oh, come on, Chris. What is it? Oh, he's not happy. No.
Fucking look at how pleased he is. Look, shin pad wanker.
Actually, don't be defensive. You're being very defensive.
Do you think you perform better or worse than your expected goals?
Well, I didn't play much at that time towards the end of my career at Stoke, so I imagine that I was maybe snatching at chances towards the end of the game. So I would say that I didn't perform well in the expected goals scenario.
Okay. Well, the good news is that according to this, you actually outperformed your XG by 0.8, which from a Stoke Football Club point of view means you scored more than they thought you would.
Is that a good or a bad thing?
I think I've worded that in a way which doesn't make it sound as good as it is. Another spin on it would be you surpassed expectation. Oh, no,
Again,
that doesn't
damning.
sound-
Do you know what?
Damning.
If ever a stat sort of summed up my entire career, really, I'd say it was that one. I'd say over the course of my 20-year career, I reckon in every season, people went, Crouchy, not as shit as we first thought. That's it.
Crouch going for the spectacular. Oh, what a goal from Peter Crouch!
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
I think what I'm fascinated about here, Crouchy, is that obviously they can have stats about goals and I think assists are easy to quantify, but it seems increasingly in the game, every part of a person's game is analysed. So they somehow manage to quantify movement. There's a number to everything. And that must change how a player plays the game now compared to how you were playing, because you were just mindful mainly, and maybe this isn't fair to say, of goals and assists.
You're absolutely spot on. Every single part of the game now is documented. You know, I think there's 200 odd cameras around a football stadium that basically, monitor absolutely everything. You know, every jog, every walk, every sprint, the high intensity distance covered, the total amount of distance covered, literally absolutely everything. But not even that. You know, we wear the sports bras in training. All your intensity will be logged on a computer and uploaded to the manager and his staff by the end of the session. And you could actually see it live. I remember a couple of times we were training. I'd come over to the side and there'd be someone with a laptop on the side of it, and you could literally see live footage of how hard you'd worked. And a couple of lads were like, "Oh, you know, I'm working harder than you," and I'm like, "Well, yeah, it's because I've had the ball. You know, you are working harder because I'm popping it round you. Yeah, right. He looks like he's working harder in training, but if you're good enough to be able to keep the ball away from them, then of course they're working harder. We're making them work harder because we're better footballers."
Right. So this is what I want to ask you then. So with the analyst, do you need them to be on side? Because ultimately their job is to break down complicated stats to a manager who just wants to hear basic things. Surely it gets watered down. And actually, as you said, like, you technically might not have ran as much, but that's no bad thing, because I do think we're showing here that stats really can be...
Yeah, subjective a little bit, yeah.
It's subjective, yeah.
Yeah, but having said that, you know, the manager will see, because you're so at close quarters with the manager will form his own opinion. And then he'll just go to the analyst and say, look, this is my theory, you know, can you back that up with stats? And if they are backed up, you haven't got a leg to stand on, have you? And that's when we'll have a team meeting. And, you know, certainly if you've lost a game and these things are coming out in the wash, and the manager, very rarely these days, a manager's not going to go in blind on his own thoughts. He will have backed it up. And I think if a manager says to you, you know, you did this, you did that, and you say, no, I didn't, well, I think quite often you'd lose that argument, because he would have had a team of analysts on the case.
There's some crazy stats out there, Chris. I think we should get into these, like some of these funny ones. But you've got more Premier League assists than Cristiano Ronaldo or Paul Scholes.
Yeah, no, listen, I'll take that. But
look at the smile on his face.
No,
Well, I'll take it. Yeah,
no, I will. Listen,
Ronaldo and Scholes, yeah, I'd take that.
I'm going to take it, but Ronaldo probably done about 3 seasons and I did about 15. I never controlled a football match, but Paul Scholes did. So I think those stats, you know, a couple of those stats might be a big hoof from a keeper, me smashing the centre half, flicking it on, someone scoring, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm not playing myself down. And of course, I'm going to take that stat and I'm going to probably tell my grandkids it. But
You're going to go upstairs and tell Abby as soon as it's pod's done.
100%. I'm going to walk in, as you know, when I go upstairs with my Luther Roux mask on and say to her, do you know, I've got more assists than Paul Scholes.
Mate, walk in, do the Ronaldo celebration. Just stand there. More assists. It's an amazing thing to hear, because you can't... It's like a comparison of sorts, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure we'd then find other stats, and obviously we're blowing smoke here, so we don't want
No,
to
but
look at those stats.
I feel, Chris, just sorry, mate. I feel like you can skew stats a little bit to suit your argument.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, if you were in Ronaldo's camp and I was in Messi's camp, there's lots of stats you could use against me and lots of stats I could use against you to form your argument.
Well, Cristiano Ronaldo's made as many penalty saves as me in the Premier League.
I've scored 108 more goals than Messi has in the Prem.
Yeah. Yeah. These are good. I like these stats. I like stats that are basically bollocks, but sound incredible. It's like this podcast. We need an analyst for this, don't we?
Yeah. I've seen a couple of podcasts that have said, we're number one. And if you look at the small print, it's like number one for, over 60s who enjoy plants on a Thursday.
It's a good pod, though.
I reckon we've assisted more pods than people have assisted us.
Got a huge amount of assists.
We've had Danny Kerr on, we've had Louis Theroux on. I feel like there's been plenty of assists from us. It's like we're the sort of, who are we? We're the Iniesta of pods, aren't we?
Oh, that's
many
nice.
ways.
Chris, don't you think it'd be amazing, Chris, what's your five-a-side team you play for now called, or play for in normal circumstances?
It's just Thursday night football, to be honest.
Okay.
Edmund Campion lads.
Shit-pad wankers.
Shut up.
So imagine this, Chris, if the five-a-side that you play on a Thursday night, imagine if somehow you could borrow a set of Premier League analysts. So they could go and watch back the last 31 times you've played, pick out the trends, maybe sort of help you out where you need to go, who you need to watch out for, what point in the game you need to watch out for them.
All right, well, let's do this. If you are, maybe you're doing this as a uni course or something, analyst, and you are in the sort of Reading, Maidenhead, Watford area, I'll invite you to come along, watch me play, break down the stats, and then maybe they can present them to you too on one of the podcasts.
Well, Chris, I've got you down as a fullback. Is that your natural position?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So the modern day fullback is looking to get up and down. There's a lot of intensity to their game.
No, I've learned that I've got 5 blasts of energy, which will send me forward.
Right.
Only 5, and it's like pulling a parachute or something behind me, like pressing a button. I will only do it 5 times in the game.
Right.
I probably should admit this on the podcast because now they'll know that there will only be 5 times that I can physically go forward. I
worry with these stats, if Trent Alexander-Arnold went to Jurgen Klopp and said, I have 5 bursts in a match where I can get beyond
when do you want to use them?
Wouldn't the crowd love it? When you see him go on one, knowing you're going to see it 5 times.
Whoa.
He's gonna go.
More often than not, I sort of get there, manage to connect with the ball to send it back in, and there's very rarely anyone there.
Oh yeah, okay. He's like a young Gareth Bale.
Very, exactly very young.
5 times. Only 5 times.
That's what he should have said to Mourinho when he comes. Look, I will come here and I'll take that money. Now, the agreement is I will go 5 times, I'll tell you what was happening is I was going forward and then I was coming back and I was knackered. So I was ineffective in defence. So now I feel like if I say I'm going to do it 5 times, there's an understanding all round of he's gone, he's not coming back. So
he's gone.
But I'll only have to cover that position 5 times.
Is the 5 times is there and back like a 2?
You know how you do pancakes? The first one you do it and then you
stitch it.
No, it's 5. It's 5 forward. And then maybe a desperate attempt to get back on the first one, but that's the mangled pancake there, isn't it? And then pancake. Like that's.
Yeah, but you've said all of them.
5, and then I'm full.
You've gone one shit one, and then pancake.
As far as I'm concerned, I've fulfilled my contract.
Quality.
Who is the pancake of the Premier League?
There's no one who does 5 runs in the Premier League match.
Sacked it off.
I don't think so. I was looking at Ndombele's stats, like recently from, when Mourinho didn't trust him to now. It's like, it's incredible. It's like over double the amount of sprints he's made now this season to when he first arrived. You do wonder what he was doing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Is that not one of those things, though, where the headline's been taken by the fact he's doing more sprints? But it could be that the sprints themselves don't matter. It's where he ends up on the pitch, where he's doing them, and whether it has an outcome. Because do you remember that story about Benny McCarthy when he was at Blackburn? If Blackburn had a corner, he'd sprint to the corner flag, knowing that this would pop up in his Prozan stats later, and he could maybe notch up his sprints by maybe 4 or 5 over the course of a game just by sprinting for corners.
100%. I knew players that did that. Training ground games where you've got the heart rate monitor on and, it's all about fitness. I've seen people do just ridiculous runs at the end or even run in at half time, like training ground games where you just run as fast as you can into
No way.
Yeah, like just to get your stats up. Yeah, 100%.
Is it connected to a sort of Parch-like mentality that some of these stats, like, really, it's kind of cheating the system, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you're looking at them and going, hang on a minute, that's iffy.
Without any doubt whatsoever. Definitely, a ridiculous sprint sort of late on in games where it's obviously twigged that they haven't worked hard enough and there's a ridiculous amount of sprints that go in. 100% in training, it happens all the time.
If you think about goalkeepers, this whole argument about who's the best goalkeeper in England, this is one surely where you need proper stats, because if you're a goalkeeper playing for a struggling team, then you have more opportunities to make saves, don't you?
On the flip side of that, though, you've got more opportunities to keep a clean sheet if you're at a better club, so that the stats would be, he's kept 10 clean sheets in out of 12 games or something, you know what I mean? Rather than he's faced that many shots. And, you could build the stats in your favour. If you're talking clean sheets, then the player at a bigger club would be better. If you're talking about saves made, the player lower down would be better.
God, it's so subjective. It's a bit like asking us three here, who's the best husband, stats-wise? Do you know what I mean? Like,
what metrics are we using here?
This is what I'm saying. And like everyone listening, like it's like stats, life stats, isn't it? It's crazy. Like, all right, my dishwasher game, I probably don't, get too many empty dishwashers.
Yeah, but I'm pretty bad on that front.
You're making me think in numbers now.
Yeah. I mean, it's numbers. I mean, I won't say that one, but there's lots of numbers
out
there.
No, I know what you were going to say then. Yeah. I could see by the expression on his face, Chris, the numbers that.
But that's, they're subjective, because that's not, through no fault of my own, the stats don't lie.
Yeah. If you were a goalkeeper, you've had far fewer shots that you've been able to try and lay a glove
I thought
on.
you were going to say clean sheets. I'm on a 10-night clean sheet ratio at the moment. Like Pepe Reina in his heyday.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Crouchy, I don't know if you're familiar with the stats website Who Scored, but you're on there. I'm going to talk through the profile they've built for you, and just bear in mind before you get too sceptical about this, this is based on data from over 500 leagues and 15,000 teams, okay? So it's got a decent sample size. Strengths, aerial duels, very strong. Key passes, strong. Weaknesses, defensive contribution. Well, all right, that's obvious, you're a striker. Then we go into Peter Crouch's style of play. Indirect set-piece threat. Do you want to give us a yes or no, see how you feel about this?
Okay.
You're not taking the free kicks, but you're getting
sense.
on the end of corners. Okay. Likes to play short passes.
Yeah. I'd incline to agree with that because, I mean, like if a ball's sort of going into me and I'm chesting it down, like I look my back to goal sort of around the box, I'm just firing off a short pass and perhaps getting in the box. I'm not like the deep lying midfielder sending out 60, 70-yard raking passes. So, yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
Okay. The next two actually then back up that argument. Likes to do layoffs and likes to do flick-ons.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does not dive into tackles. Sounds good, but that's immediately followed with commits fouls often.
No, this is all absolutely spot on because I won't dive into a life-saving tackle because I'm not in a life-saving position defensively. But I'll commit a lot of fouls because I'm sort of jousting with a defender.
So you're basically agreeing with this website and saying that you think it's pretty accurate.
Oh no, I don't like where this is going.
I don't like
smoke up the arse before, and
this is the old. Let's build him up and destroy him.
I've also been digging around some other stat websites, and I've come across this one that describes you as 96% right-footed.
What does that mean?
It means he can't even stand on his left foot.
Why am I a pirate? I got a left. I got a left leg. Like, seriously, come on. I mean, I've scored a few goals from my left.
Do you feel that's inaccurate, Crouchy?
I feel like that's too far the other way. By no means am I two-footed. I am predominantly right-footed, scored the majority of my goals with my head and my right foot. Left, I've scored a few. I can remember a few good goals that I've scored with my left, but it happens in a game where it is on your left. I wouldn't be afraid to take that shot on. I wouldn't take it on if it was 30 yards out, but I would take it on if it was inside the box. I'm not, I wasn't great with my left foot, but I'd say better than 96% right-footed.
Would you like a couple of comparison points to help us out here, boys? So, Chris, it's a bit like when we had Andy Robertson on as a guest in the last series. And you could argue that Andy Robertson is 99% left-footed. According to this same website, Andy Robertson actually is 93% left-footed. So what this website seems to be saying, Crouchy, is you're more one-footed than Andy Robertson.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
He's not like
I feel like
You've not like that. You don't like this at all, do you?
No, but do you know why I don't like it? Because every other stat I felt was quite accurate.
Boys, we've had a message. We've always get these messages in, and they're always a delight to receive. This one is from another Tom. I've spent this lockdown preparing to ask my girlfriend to marry me. I've got her parents' permission, and the ring is currently being designed and will be ready very soon. I was wondering if you and the boys could help with any tips on how to propose.
I think these days, people with Instagram and everyone's life's better than everyone else's, isn't it? Like on Instagram, you look at it and you go, oh my God, everyone's having such a more fun time, or everyone's doing better things. Everyone's on a holiday in a better place. I think proposals and things like that are like, you've got to go bigger and better, haven't you? But just forget about all that.
Well,
just do it the old school way and do it nicely.
Do it nicely. And what I would say is if you can do it on a day that also doubles up with an already good day, that's a good idea as well. So you haven't got to get extra presents. So if you can team it up with Valentine's Day, because otherwise it's another day that you've got to remember. Save the ring for that time that you're about to get in trouble. Pull it out at that point. Go, I haven't forgotten. Marriage.
Marriage. Boom. He had me, and then she's going to be calling her mates and going like, we all thought he forgot, but he's done the most romantic thing that he could ever do.
He did such a good job of keeping it a surprise.
Yeah.
I thought he didn't care.
It was like he had nothing on his mind. It was so romantic. He's watching the football for most of it.
He even pretended to arrange a night out with his mates.
No card, no flowers, nothing. Just a ring. 11:30. He's a cheeky bugger. I thought he was drunk at first. I thought he was smashed.
There you go, Tom. That's everything you need to know. Best of luck. Keep us updated. That little parachute there in the back pocket, ready to go.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
Hello again, everyone. This is David Howes again. Crouchy, I think we all know now that you stole my boots to sell at Shepherd's Bush Market, and in doing so pretty much finished my career. But I'm over it. I'm completely over it now, mate. Absolutely 100% over it. And since retiring, I've tried my hand at many few things, actually, one of which was teaching. And that got me thinking, mate. If you could pick any footballer or manager as your teacher in your last year at primary school, who would you pick?
What's a question for David Howes?
Pub question, this, isn't it?
Oh, that's a proper good question now. I didn't know what he was up to now.
So you didn't know he got into teaching?
No, I didn't know that. No, I didn't know that. It was a great question, that.
Great question. So let's break it down a bit.
Let's break it down.
Do you reckon he had a pupil clean his shoes for him when he was a teacher? Do you reckon he'd leave his shiny shoes in one of the kids at the... What are you looking for in your last year at primary school, Crouchy? Are you looking for someone who's more fun than discipline? Someone who's going to prepare you for secondary school?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because like I'm not going to go for someone like really sort of like a disciplinarian. Like I'm not going to go down the Capello route. If I was going on to like Eton or something like that, then maybe I would need a Capello, someone to kick me up the arse and go like, no, come on, it's education, education, education. It's not what I'm looking for. My
just imagine Capello doing.
Can you just do it Capello style,
Crouchy.
please?
Education, education, education. Fuck Crouchy, no. Taking a piece again, Crouchy.
I think year 6, you're on that last year sort of school trip that you do to Swanage or Bude. So you want a teacher that's sort of like its first trip away, its first proper away week, isn't it? Like it's exciting. You want to go down there and enjoy it. You need a teacher sort of turns a blind eye to.
You got to have someone fun. It's my last year of primary school. Things get serious, don't they? In secondary school, But I want a nice grounding of. I want someone a bit fun and someone who's can be responsible as well. Can look after us. So I keep coming back to Pepe Reina, and I don't know why. But I just feel like I could have a little bit, I could get that good grounding of Spanish. Like I feel like I should have really tried harder at Spanish. He'd be a good teacher. He was intelligent. He's
you look at the go-karts, you look at that trip to Swanage there, he's getting involved a bit as well, isn't he? He's in the kayak.
He's involved, but he's stepping back, at the right time. He knows he's responsible. He knows his responsibilities. He always did his job very, very well.
Scott Parker, I think he'd be sort of he'd be. Do you know what I mean? You'd respect him as a teacher. You'd stay up a couple of hours late, and he'd say, "Right, it really is time to get the lights out now." Do you know what I mean?
And you'd do what he said because you liked him.
Come on, don't
need
take
to
the
be
piss,
super
boys. He'd
strict.
say, "Don't take the piss, boys," as well.
And you'd feel a bit guilty,
year
wouldn't
7.
you? Yeah,
you'd be like, "Sorry,"
a bit guilty, and you go to bed.
Yeah,
sorry, Mr. Parker.
Harry Redknapp would be a good scenario.
Yeah, he's good. Chelsea manager would be a nightmare.
Okay, Crouchy, listen, you sort of wriggled off the Fiona Bruce question a couple of episodes ago, so I'm going to hold you to account here. And on behalf of David Howells, who would be your primary school teacher for your final year?
Well, I'm going to go with Pepe Reina. I've got no idea why, apart from he could teach you a bit of Spanish and he's a nice fella.
David Howells, there you go.
Right, boys, it's that time again where we've got another person stepping up to the challenge of promoting their podcast here with us. I'm pleased to introduce Russell Kane. Hello, mate.
Okay, so do you remember when Harvey Weinstein was all kicking off? I was having a few jars down the pub with my mates, and we was like, right, so when you watch a film now, if you see produced by Harvey Weinstein, you feel a bit like dirty just watching it. So I had a meeting with Radio 4 the next day. I said, this is the idea. We take people from history, dead, so they can't sue, and I let off fact bombs around that person, uncomfortable, horrific things they did throughout the hour record of the show. And then at the end, my panel have to vote evil or genius.
We got reviewed by Radio 4 on this podcast. They absolutely slated it.
I think that one of the problems, Russell, was that the quote they used from the pod was a line that involved us discussing how many sausages you could put up your arse.
I mean, are we talking like a Richmond or a Savoy?
Do you
if you do that sausage one again, get me back. I'd be well up for that debate.
Yeah, it's worth discussing.
Peter Crouch cancelled in the future. He was a wonderful footballer, but he stuck sausages in his arse. I vote evil.
Do we think Crouchy will be regarded by people in the future as an evil guy or genius?
It's a genius at the moment, but who knows what will be unearthed when we go through the diaries? Who knows what he might be into? We've done a couple of football ones, though, like George Best. I mean, there's no doubt about it. The guy was a genius with his feet, but what a flawed and interesting life. We never put addiction and alcoholism as an evil, ever, but we do analyse the behaviour and everything that went on it. And we've got one of my biggest recordings is Maradona, and I feel the weight of football fans on my shoulders as I discuss that interesting, flawed genius.
Yeah, it's a very different podcast to ours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is funny. Yeah. We only have comics on. We only have comedians, so it's 80%. Getting to people to laugh inappropriately, to kick ideas about. It is funny. It is primarily laughing and learning.
Do you know that comedy? I'll get it deeper, but that comedy where it was ruthless and a bit politically incorrect. that must be a lot harder to do nowadays.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I am like total vanilla coward anyway. If like I'm playing a 2,000-seater and I see one person not enjoying it, I'll be thinking about it for weeks. I suppose political correctness is like the VAR of stand-up. People are always waiting. There's like a little electrical check waiting for you to make a mistake. That opinion was slightly wrong now that we've reviewed the video footage. Joke disallowed. Red card.
Is there an argument, Russell, with some of these? Like, I'm thinking about Maradona here. I would say with Maradona, he couldn't have been the genius he was on the pitch if he wasn't slightly evil off it.
Look at Pele. You telling me Pele was a shit footballer? The guy's still going strong and selling fucking cock medicine. There's nothing wrong with him. He's had a great life.
Oh, God.
You don't have to be an arsehole to be good at something. Peter's a genius footballer. And, he's not a bastard. Not hoovering gear off the pitch and fathering children in Italy.
There's something in that. There is something in that, 100%. You don't have to be a complete twat to be amazing.
Right, so the podcast, it's called Evil Genius. You can get it on BBC Sounds. Russell, thanks for coming on. Anything else you'd like to say about it before we say bye?
Yes, so don't think that it's like lofty celebrities. We do kings and thinkers, but it's a real mix. We do pop stars, footballers, all kind. We even do fictional characters. We've got a James Bond this series. We did Father Christmas last Christmas. Someone that breaks into homes, terrorizes children and punishes them, carries a sack round, tempting children with a magic reindeer. So he was
Okay, right.
It's all right. It's fictional, Chris. Don't panic. You can't. No. You can't. Look, Chris is like, I'm sorry. We don't want Santa to sue us. This is where Chris realizes Father Christmas isn't real and shits himself. He's only 12, bless him.
Yeah. See, I thought this was a good idea. Get someone on, like, rather than us talking about the podcast, like, someone can come on and they can talk about their own podcast themselves. I think we can all agree it's got off to a great start, this, hasn't it?
I've just defrosted some sausages in the kitchen, so you know what I'm going to go and do.
So the pod is Evil Genius. That's Russell Kane, and it's available on BBC Sounds.
That Peter Crouch podcast from BBC 5 Live.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.